Hey, welcome to Expand Your Us, the week of July 4th. This essay is called My America. This week, Americans celebrate Independence Day, a holiday that cheers freedom and demonstrates patriotism, often with jorts, fireworks, and excessive day drinking. Just as often, we mark the holiday with neighborhood bike parades, barbecue, and watermelon. Thinking about the various ways we spend our 4th of July leads me to also wonder what exactly is it that we are celebrating? Put it another way, what is America and who gets to decide? Are we Lee Greenwood's version, proud, certain we are free and blessed, and familiar with the agricultural highlights of each state? Is Charlie Daniels' vision of a national kumbaya correct? Will we, quote, all stick together? You can take that to the bank. That's the cowboys and the hippies, the rebels and the Yanks, end quote. Does Donald Glover get to decide? In his song, This is America, he reveals a country alive with movement and soul, but also littered with guns, violence, apathy, and fear. Maybe Toby Keith gets it right, describing us as an international bar bouncer. He says, "You'll be sorry you messed with the US of A. We'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way." Do veterans who think we honor the whole America in the national anthem by standing or kneeling get to decide who America is? On a national holiday that celebrates our origin story, it's worth thinking about who we are. For many Americans, America does not or does represent freedom and independence. We are the magical land where people prove their worth through their work, where everyone gets a fair shot. God loves to bless us because we are his favorites, outside of Israel, of course. Real Americans have no need to protest anything because we are great, and protesters are violent whiners. I like this idea of America, and sometimes I wish I could believe it. I have learned, however, that in order to believe this is the version of America, I have to erase way more history than I remember. I have to erase the experiences of many friends, of many Americans. In order to believe, I have to ignore the fact that our country was founded to guarantee the freedom and equality of white men and white men alone. I have to ignore the fact that we legally and intentionally oppressed, killed, and stole from Native and Black peoples. I have to ignore this single mom in Appalachia who works incredibly hard but can't establish her worth or sustainability to the world around her. I have to ignore the Black man who works long hours, even though he's treated with suspicion and disdain when his paycheck fails to give his family breathing room. I know these ideas can seem inflammatory, and I don't write them to provoke. Instead, I'm suggesting that we might celebrate Independence Day best by recognizing our entire history. We are both a country that loves our work ethic and a country that refuses to reward the hard work of some parts of our population. We are both a country who believes in equality and justice for all, and one that legislates injustice and inequity. We believe in democracy and fair shots while protecting a caste system based on race and education. We are the home of the brave, and yet we have punished displays of bravery in brown or female bodies. We cherish our religious freedom, but we ban people on the basis of their religion. Calling these assertions unpatriotic does not make them untrue. People who study American culture talk about our long standing tradition of imagining American spaces really as white spaces. In our dominant cultural imagination, hard workers look like white workers. The American heartland looks like quilts sewn and fields plowed and pies baked by white hands. I know the mention of race is off putting for some people, but this is because many Americans have the privilege of not thinking about the cultural or historical racism that links color with suspicion. If we could recognize our passive linking of, quote, real Americans with actual white Americans, then we can embrace our country's entire story on this historic holiday. This Independence Day, could we honor our nation's legacy by thinking independently? Could we reject the narrative that the only way to be patriotic is to love Lee Greenwood and reject or ignore Donald Glover? Could we listen to those who honor our flag by kneeling or standing? On July 4th, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. A group of very brave white men in tights and wigs wrote an epic letter protesting the oppressive injustice of a group of powerful, privileged men who refused to consider the perspective or value of others. The origin story of America is one of protest. Knowing this, it's now hard to accept the idea that those who protest or see a different part of America are unpatriotic, that they're un American. Now, writing this gives me pause because I know the dangers of living in the middle space, where American failures and triumphs are both remembered. I know the mention of white supremacy can feel like an attack on America, but I'm even more afraid for all of us if we continue to act as if America only belongs to a certain type of person. The thing that we celebrate on July 4th is taking power from a few and sharing that power with many. While we have yet to get this right, we come closer to living up to the American democratic ideal when we make rooms for all kinds of voices to share their experiences of America. This begins by remembering our entire history. When our daughter was 3, she had a funny speech pattern where she addressed people with a possessive pronoun. She called her favorite neighbor my Isabel. She said, I want to swim with my Emmett, or I go play with my Marion. Remembering this makes me think about what it means to claim a person. She was not trying to own them with her my, but she was addressing her devotion to them. She was relationally bound by love and delight to these people. As we celebrate Independence Day, to whom are we relationally bound? Who is worthy of our delight and love? And who do we naturally dismiss or avoid? We all have these kinds of biases. They can be confessed and examined, transforming them as markers in our journey as we expand our us and build better communities. These biases become dangerous, however, when we trust them as good and right and use them to demean the value of other human beings who share our air and our zip codes. In an age where I hear angry voices claim that he's not my president or they aren't in my America, I want to celebrate the 4th of July by claiming my America, the way Stella talked about our America, which has been exclusive and inclusive, brave and cowardly, bullying and welcoming, oppressing and dignifying. Let's celebrate the whole America and every person who helped build, cultivate, and shape it. Every race, culture, and gender who contributed to the country that we call ours. It took a diverse village to build us into who we are, and we lose very little when we acknowledge that fact. We lose our country when we pretend like it is, though, and always has been the result and promise of one race alone. As we celebrate, let's reflect on who we've been, who we are, and what each of us might help America become. Thanks for listening. Happy 4th of July. I'm always happy to talk, so give me a shout if you'd like to.